Well, hello everybody, and welcome to Wednesday's devotion. As you would be aware, the last few weeks I've just gone to talking to people and having them express some of their ideas and thoughts around stuff in the church, but not only that, just about what's happening again with over these last couple of months with COVID-19. Today we have a special guest. We have our Lord Mayor, Gordon Bradbury.
Hi,
Welcome,
Mark.
Gordon.
Hi, everyone.
Great to have Gordon here today. Gordon has been Mayor of Wollongong since 2011.
That's correct.
And Gordon, is it Lord Mayor or is it Mayor of Wollongong?
Actually, it's Lord Mayor because it was a title or an honour that was given to the city by Queen Elizabeth in 1974, I think. So it's a title that the mayor or an honour that the city of Wollongong has bestowed upon it by the Queen, on the basis that I can be given the title Lord Mayor, but it's the Right Worshipful Lord Mayor.
Okay, well, we'll remember that.
So don't worry, just Gordon will do.
Gordon was the minister at Wesley Mission or Church on the Mall or Wollongong Uniting Church, however you'd like to frame that, for many years before coming into the mayor's position now. I don't think I've ever known a title, Gordon, Reverend Mayor.
Well, neither did I till this time. I got more titles than the bishop, the Catholic Bishop of Wollongong. And I was just reflecting upon that. Yes, we got the letters patent in 1974. I think the honour was bestowed upon the city in 1970. So we're actually celebrating the 50th anniversary of Wollongong being given the honour of appointing a Lord Mayor.
This year?
Yeah, this year, actually. Anyway, so it's really interesting in as much that I got a letter from the Governor-General of Australia, and it had their sticklers for protocol. They went, the Right Worshipful Reverend Gordon Alfred Bradbury AM.
It's a long one.
And it's right across the envelope, and I thought, oh my goodness, but Gordon will do.
Was it, how was it, Gordon, to go from people referring to you as Reverend, if you're in some, official title, to people like walking past, I guess, in the street saying, hello Mayor Mayor Bradbury? Was that hard to get used to?
No, just be people say hello Lord Mayor and just leave it at that. It might be me as an individual, but the position is Lord Mayor.
Yeah.
And I see the two differently.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So they are paying respect to the position, not necessarily the individual, but at the same time, hopefully the two match.
Okay.
But that's the way it is, and staff are expected to refer to me as Lord Mayor. Okay. As well as other councillors. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's interesting to know.
But it's just out of respect for the position, not necessarily the individual.
Well, every now and again I get called Reverend. You get called Reverend more up Sydney. I do. I think in down here.
Well, let me say that I've perhaps been expected to perform more miracles in this gig than I was as a Reverend.
Just on that, those titles there, I guess my next question, Gordon, is. I think it was Mark Twain said that you shouldn't discuss politics and religion together.
In polite company.
In polite company, yes. You've got a foot in both. How does that work for you regarding politics? I know there's politics in church as well, but how do you manage that? Being one of faith and then also you've got responsibilities that sort of, like, do they stand outside your faith when it comes to decision making?
Well, for a start, on a personal level, it's never been any different. As far as I'm concerned, I'm the package. My faith is part of that, and it's been really interesting in as much that within this organisation, I am expected to still represent that position. Sometimes in the context of council meetings or taking a stance on something, I still express it in terms that this is my faith stance. Not necessarily to ramming it down people's throats, but they know what I stand for. I'm not an overly literal Christian. I'm a more liberal, if I can put it like that, in the theological sense. but at the same time, that doesn't detract from the fact that I take a stance that this is what Jesus expected of me, and I will follow through. And that has been reflected in respect and consideration that I've been given here at council, as I would have to respect the faith stance of other people who come in to see me as well. We have a diverse religious background in this city, everything from the Islamic community, Shia, Sunni, right through to the Buddhist, the humanistic Buddhism at the Nantian Temple, and then we've got all the Orthodox churches. So Christianity is quite diverse in Wollongong as well. And I've got, fortunately, my degree in divinity, which did involve a lot of religious studies and comparative religion at Sydney University when I did it, actually has given me, put me in good stead for this position. So I don't resile from talking about religion, understanding religion, and politics. And politics is always just part of humans interacting, as far as I'm concerned.
That's really good insight, isn't it? To have, to know that Gordon, as the mayor of this town, this our Wollongong, how, because I guess it could be a tricky minefield. If I just relate, Gordon, to your time as a minister, where part of our role as a minister is to unite a faith community. I'm just wondering about, as a region, is there anything that sort of crosses over from how you sort of manage a faith community, Gordon, to how you manage a region, which is on a larger scale? And you've just spoken about the different religions again that make up this town as well. I guess my question, Gordon, is how do you unite a region? You did it as a church. How do you do it as a region?
Well, I think for a start that you are available to listen to everyone's perspective. That I don't come from, I'm not driven by an ideology, whether it be Liberal or Labor or Greens or whatever. Each of those ideologies have their positives as well as their negatives. So the advantage of being independent is not necessarily that I'm independent and make things up or just go on my own inner judgment, but I use the basis of my faith to make decisions. The fairness, the equity, the justice. I can understand where poor Solomon was coming from when he had to make the decision about who owned the child, and that very proverbial judgment and wisdom of Solomon. Well, I've got to make that decision with the other councillors as to how to divide up a pile of money with the expectations are this big, and the pile of money that we have to make expectations is this big. How do you do that wisely and justly? And I have people who only see things from their perspective. I've got to see things from a regional or city's perspective, and that's not to say the other councillors don't do so either, but I don't push it through an ideological lens.
You ministered within the church. I guess that would have given you good experience in that, wouldn't it, Gordon?
Well, you've got in the church is an interesting thing in as much that I think sometimes people see their understanding of Jesus and faith and everything through their lens, and then so often you shop around for the denomination that suits your perspective and so on. And I'm a bit wary of that, in as much that I often would challenge people on the basis that sometimes we don't want to listen to the real deep disciplines of our faith. Some of the time, discipline of our faith also means that we have to take not only a stance at times, but also to coalesce in the interests of the greater good, and put our own personal interests aside. And there are very gracious Christians who do that, and they're the ones that I admire, because they realise that it isn't always black and white. I wish it was, and it's not easy to make a decision or take a stance, because there are two sides to the argument. But those who are prepared to listen to both sides, and also in the greater interests of the church and the work of the church, and in the interests of Christ, put their own preferences aside in the interests of the greater good.
Yeah, that's true. I guess that does carry over, into a secular world as much as it should be the way that we lead in a church as well. Gordon, it's been strange times. I think that would be a way of putting what's happened over the last 3 months. And I say strange because as much as it's been about separation and isolation, it seems that many churches have all of a sudden discovered technology, and where most services are online, we're doing things like different devotions online and screening them for people who, not only are isolated, but may not, we seem to attract a different audience at times. I know in our worship there's people watching that didn't come to church, definitely didn't come to Corrimal again. I know it can have sort of a bittersweet sort of feeling because there's a lot of people that are losing out of this economically, and of course there's the ones more associated to overseas regarding people dying and those that are of relatives and friends of people who are dying. But what's your personal reflection, Gordon? Has this been good for the church, or is it just another one of those hard testing times?
I think it's one of those hard testing times, but I think it also highlights the fact that if we are to be the church, then we need to put a bit more intentionality into it. And those who wish to be part of the church need to either adjust the technology or the opportunities that come our way to retain the sense of fellowship and connectedness. But it's also, the COVID situation highlights once more that we are vulnerable as human beings, that our success we are interdependent of people doing the right thing. We also need to get our head around how we're dealing with the environment and the future of our world. In Jesus' day, the population of the world was less than probably 500 million. So we're getting up around about 8-9 billion people heading in that direction on a planet that cannot sustain that sort of population. The reality is that we need to do a rethink as human beings. One of the reasons why we've got the COVID situation is not only the big populations, which are basically petri dishes for breeding or creating the environment for viruses and mutations, but also the mobility of people. So we're in a new world. So how does the Christian faith address that? Well, there's two things. Yes, Christianity respects the rights of individuals, but also emphasises our need at times to take on board the needs of the greater good, for the greater good. And we set the tone. That is how we behave in terms of utilising resources of the world, as well as our personal behaviour, our expectations, and so on. So there's a whole need for a rethink, I think. And Christianity, good with respect, good Christians are open-minded to the guidance of the Spirit to address the problems of the world at this time, and not burying our head in cliches, and we're not out there to invent new commandments. We're out there to propagate grace, to address the problems of the world with the intellectual and compassionate, gracious gifts that God gives us. Yes, like at the beginning of the scriptures, it says, "Go out and be fruitful and multiply." Well, I think the world's overdone it. Okay. We need to. We have to also be stewards of the Garden of Eden.
Yes.
And so there are some big challenges before us. How we do that? Well, we can use technology, yes, for communication purposes. But this just highlights the fact that we've got one earth, we've got one Saviour, and we've got one church that needs to address the problems of the world. And bringing those things together, uniting us around the cause of the future of the planet and humanity is a really extremely important thing. And I think the COVID situation has certainly highlighted that need.
One of the words that you mentioned there, Gordon, was grace. I just wonder, in this role outside the church that you are in now, grace is something as ministers we're expected to exemplify. Do you find that a test in the role as Lord now, or is it's just people? It doesn't matter inside or out the church when it comes to grace.
It's just people. Okay, for God so loved the world, and well, as the very important text goes. It wasn't but with the exception of this group or that group or this group or this subsection and so on. I've got the biggest challenge before me, and that is I've got to respectfully listen to all with an attitude that they might have something to contribute to my understanding and also to my well-being. The times I discover things that I didn't quite understand or grasp. So grace means that it's a reciprocity between myself and another. And it's perhaps more trying to exercise grace in this context than it is in the church, because sometimes you, in the holy huddle, you know, what's the old saying? Great minds think alike.
That's right. So you can get it from within the church. Out here, they might not.
That's right.
Respond to it.
Oh, there's another. The opposite of that is fools never differ. So,
exactly right. So
there's a bit of a warning there. But look, you know, God's unconditional love has been granted to me. I have no reticence about making sure that same grace is given to others.
Gordon, I think I speak on behalf of many people to say that you come across as very passionate for this town. I've asked, I remember asking this to two different ministers, Graham Hush and Jeff Flynn, that I've talked to in the last few weeks. And I just wonder what your opinion about this is. When we're talking about passion, Gordon, and you being a minister as well, a Christian as well, does your passion come from your faith, or is it your faith that actually drives your passion? Like, where do you see passion fitting within your faith, or is it just a personality trait? I would suggest it's not. I would suggest that there's always been as people who put forward their names to be advocates for Christ as ministers, we declare our passion. I just wonder, does faith assist you in your passion, Gordon?
Faith does involve not only the good thinking, sound theology, and you should never hang up your brain on the coat hanger at the front of the door when you come in. Okay, it's not an absent. You're not switching off your cognitive abilities and your rational thought, but at the same time, you're not also leaving your heart behind as well.
Yeah.
Okay, the two, as far as I'm concerned, that's what faith is about. It's yes, your head, your passion, or your heart, where your heart is, or your love of God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. But also to put around that language and responses to that love, which are what I would say cognitively sound. I am not going to be manipulated by my passions alone, but I'm not going to be manipulated by my head alone. The two go hand in hand. So the scriptures are important to read. Prayer is important. Reflection is important as well. Meditation, but also bringing your heart and your cognitive abilities to that as well. And the third aspect, of course, is then your body responds. So you put your body, your physical being, in the right space to be able to do the things that your head and your heart want to do. I think so often we in the Western world have too much focused upon the cognitive, but sometimes we have to put our bodies in the right space for the head and the heart to catch up as well, and so on. So it's otherwise you just create cognitive dissonance, and you get yourself in a lot of mental distress and heartache. So integration of your personality, your faith, who you are, and so on.
Holistic.
Yes. So that when you do lay your head down at night, even though there are times when it takes me a while to go to sleep, most of the time it's on the basis that I've got a sense of integrity about what I've done.
Okay. I had a call, Gordon, from a congregant only 2 weeks ago, and they said to me, they asked me a question, and they said, Mark, do you know Gordon Bradbury? And I said, They said, "Do you know he was a Uniting Church minister?" I said, "Everybody in Wollongong knows Gordon Bradbury." I said, "He's the Lord Mayor." And yes, he was a Uniting Church minister. Gordon, I just want to say, especially just on behalf of Corrimal, but I speak for Illawarra Presbytery as well, being part of it as well, that I think you're doing a wonderful job as Mayor, and you lead by your passion. I think your leadership has brought a revitalisation to, if not council, but to the town, coming from a few dark years of council. Your Christian ethics definitely lead the way as far as that you can be trusted by what you say. You put your face in many, many places, so people get to see you, and so there's a good presence about you as well, Gordon. So I just want to say, Gordon, thank you for today. I know there'll be many people obviously thanking you as well through me for today, for putting up this time. I'm in the council chambers here that Gordon wonderfully made available for us today. And I just want to encourage you, Gordon, to continue leading, and I hope you're going to be maybe in this position for a while yet. I know you're not younger as you used to be, but yes, Gordon, you're doing a great job.
And everyone keep the faith. Look, as far as I'm concerned, it's people, you're going to confront obstacles and challenges, but it's just people who quietly just get on with their faith, exercise their trust in their Lord, and just serve humanity in the best way you can, as well as, of course, enjoy the experience. As far as I'm concerned, my faith experience has always been an enjoyable one.
Yes.
It's a relationship that has been lovely in that sense. So, anyway, all the best, everyone. Take care.
Thank you, everybody, for watching us again today. Gordon, as we all can always do with our prayers, so continue to pray for Gordon in his position and his ability to be able to unite the people of Wollongong. See you next time.